he was speaking the top, most high, most eloquent language that one could speak. And he went to their parliament and he spoke in front of them. And the same thing was found in Islam just recently, when one of the scholars in India, he went to the Russian Empire, their colony. And in the parliament he delivered a speech after learning the Russian language in just 10 days. And his name was Shaykh Sindhi. And Shaykh Sindhi went in the parliament, and that was the time when they were just about to implement communism. And he went and he said, look, I have a system which is better than your communism. And all you communists, I have a system. They said, go and explain. And within a few hours he explained the entire system of Islam. And they said, this is tremendous. We will follow this system. Now show us a country that has this already implemented. And he said, I'm sorry, I fail here. Because the Turkish Empire has just crashed down. And we don't have a system where I can show you a complete Islamic state. And that's when the Russians, they said, we're sorry, it's an excellent system, but we have to see it work first. But look at what this Shaykh did. And the same thing in the Prophet ﷺ's time. These children, they were learning this in the mosque. What do we want? We want our children to come, Quran, has the Quran been finished? Yes. When can I go to Ambala to buy my sweets, to dish them out to all my relatives? And the Quran is finished and that will be finished. He'll come home, oh yes, my son, my daughter has finished the Quran, and that's all I need. And we have become like the Prophet ﷺ said, Ummiyun la ya'lamun al-kitab. A whole generation of illiterate people who do not know what's inside the Quran. And all we want is the praise of people. That's all we want. We want people to say, oh, shabash, oh, that's very great. Your son has finished the Quran. You know, at what age? Oh, 12 years old. Oh, mashallah, better than my daughter who finished at 14 years old. And that's all we want to do. Yet the Prophet ﷺ was not looking like that. Anas radiallahu anhu was only 8 years old. And what did he learn in the khidmah? Look at Aisha radiallahu anha. She was a very young girl. But how much did she learn? She actually became capable of running a whole army by the time the Prophet ﷺ has died. And the women were also trained in his time to be brave. They used to get camels and they used to sacrifice the camels in front of the women so the women would not be scared. So the women would be brave. And they were made so brave that in the battle of Khaybar, in the battle of Khandaq, the Prophet ﷺ, when they dug that trench, he called all the believers to come out. And they were all fighting. Not even a single male believer companion was left inside Medina, except for one. And his name was Abdullah ibn Maktoum, and he was a blind companion. He couldn't fight. Therefore he was left looking after all the women in a Muslim tower, and in the tower were all the women. But then what the Jews did, the Jews had already made an agreement with the Quraysh. They said, you, O Makkans, you attack from outside, and we will cause fitna from inside. And as soon as the Prophet ﷺ was being bombarded with all these arrows and spears, and he couldn't move, 4 of his salah became qada. And that's when the Jews, they saw that there was a great chance of going and attacking and raping the Muslim women. And as soon as, what happened is that they all crowded around this tower, and one flung a hook onto a high archway, and he started to climb inside. Now Abdullah ibn Maktoum was blind. How could he defend the women? But the auntie of the Prophet ﷺ, Sufiya, look how brave is she. She picked up a sword. She said, you wait here. She picked up a sword and she went behind the archway. She hid until the Jew came and just put his head inside the archway to climb in. She took the sword and there was his head gone. But she did not just stop there. She took the head and she threw it outside the arch onto the Jews that were below. And they thought, oh my God, there must be a huge army inside. And they all ran back to their homes. Now these were women who were trained by the Prophet ﷺ. That was the community which the Prophet ﷺ built. And when he came to Medina, look at another thing. When he came to Medina, he sent all his sahabas, all his companions. He said, go and search the entire Medina, and I want all of you to know every single street and gully inside Medina. This is the Prophet. Why? Because he's thinking ahead. He's thinking that if my companions have come from Makkah, they don't know the state of Medina, then they should be well aware, just in case we have to run away. We would not know where to go. If the Jews attack us in Medina, then where will we go? And the Prophet ﷺ looked at these small parts of knowledge. This is also knowledge, ilm. And he taught his sahabas this. And the things he taught his companions were just tremendous. Now, in the Prophet ﷺ kingdom, like I said, he had these young children who were learning these knowledges, these sciences. And as he brought them up, they now were getting an insight to knowledges and sciences which were beyond what the Arabs had ever learnt. I'll give you an example. Tell me this. Why has Allah mentioned the mother's womb and the way inside the mother's womb there is a form that takes inside the child? How the child is formed, how the child is born. What's that got to do with knowledge? With what Allah has given? Why couldn't Allah just say, okay, you have 5 things to do. You have salat, you first have to read the kalima, then salat, then zakat, and saum. After that, make sure you go for hajj, and that's your Islam and that's your whole Quran. Why couldn't it be that? Is that the only thing that's inside the Quran? I'm asking you. Why does Allah talk about the mother's wombs? Why does Allah talk about stars? Why does Allah talk about the low part of the earth? Why does Allah talk about parts of the sea? Why does Allah talk about when Zulqarnain, he used a method of civil engineering, which is mentioned in the Quran? Why does Allah talk about Dawood who melted metal and he made arms and shields? Why does he have to talk about this? Why does he have to talk about people in the Holy Quran like Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam and his kingdom and the way he ran his kingdom and the way he fooled Bilqis by creating such a scene that she did not understand. And these delicacies, why did Allah have to mention all this? What's that got to do with our Islam today? The thing is that Allah was now not only opening access to worshipping Allah, bowing down in front of Him, but Allah was now making us the people who would control the entire earth for the next generations to come until doomsday. That's what Allah has given us in this Quran. Allah has given a system in this Quran that if we learn the system of this Quran and the knowledge which Allah has revealed in this Quran, we will become so great that we can control the entire world. And that goes from ruling an empire, and that goes from knowledge which is from mathematics, which is science, all inside the Quran. It goes from knowledge which in the Holy Quran Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed psychology. I mean, who's ever thought, we say, oh, what are you learning to a kid, we might say, or a child who's in university, we might say, what are you learning? Oh, psychology. Oh, psychology. What do you want to know about the brain? Learn something as, oh, he's gone into a different path, he's not on the path of deen. But psychology is inside the Quran. It's actually, and the Prophet ﷺ was he was the best psychiatrist you could ever think of. Because when a Sahabi came to him, one companion who had just entered into Islam, he came to him and he said, Ya Rasulullah, I want to commit adultery. And the Prophet ﷺ, he did not say haram, prohibited. He did not say this is you should not do this. No, the Prophet ﷺ used psychology, and he said to him, have you got a sister? He said yes. He said, would you like anyone to do that to your sister? And then he came to his senses. And this was psychology which the Prophet ﷺ was using. And this is science of the Quran, which the Quran has come down to us. Where have we gone? How much have we moved away from the Prophet ﷺ's life and what he came down with? This knowledge is so great that if I could really show you about some of the things inside the Quran, you'd be surprised and you wouldn't believe me. And that's what's happened over the years, that our scholars have literally taken this knowledge and kept it. Some of them, not all of them, don't forget. Some scholars have really done a great effort to propagate this knowledge. But one thing that we need to do is understand that the Prophet ﷺ, he differentiated knowledge different from what we are differentiating today. We say there is religious knowledge and there is worldly knowledge. But the Prophet ﷺ did not differentiate between that. He differentiated knowledge into two parts in a different way. And he said beneficial knowledge and non-beneficial knowledge. And if you look at the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ, you will see that the Prophet ﷺ actually used these words. He said in one hadith, in one dua he makes to Allah, he says, Allahumma inni as'aluka ilman yanfa'. Oh Allah, I ask you a knowledge which will benefit me. And he said, oh Allah, Rabbi, Allahumma allimni ma yanfa'uni. Oh Allah, teach me that which will benefit me. اللهم علمني ما ينفعني وانفعني بما علمتني, and benefit me with that which you have taught me.